We met this lovely author. She was the best. I loved her so much. And we did a lot of fun activities together, and we just got the chance to talk about ourselves, her writing, and just the activities. They were just very inspiring.
I basically broke down the storytelling process into what we call fast and dirty way. Used the story wheel, which allows them to pick their main characters and the drive and motivation for them and the conflict that they can build into their personalities.
So when I personally got up and did my own activity, it was for a story that I had written a few months back, and I was basically going through these two main characters in the story that I'm writing. It's a short horror story. And I went through what their traits would be. So I had this French woman who's the gossiping popular girl, to say, and then the quieter older gentleman who notices every single detail.
We also talked about how you could take the back of a book jacket. The 3 paragraphs that are part of that are part of a set template, which is the first paragraph is your character, second paragraph is usually your collision, and the third is your quest. And if they can write that first, they usually have a map for their entire story.
We were talking about how to create a hook for a story, and so she was saying how you have 3 chances to hook your audience in with the front cover, the first page, and the back sleeve.
We also talked about some famous authors that write in reverse, and how writing in reverse can help them figure out where they want to go with a story, who needs to be in the story, things like that.
What really struck a chord to me about the whole activity was describing the characters more and giving them more personality than what I've already given them. It helps me connect to the character more personally.
Talk about your main character first, then talk about a conflicting issue, and then how that converts into a sort of quest kind of thing.
So we exited the iPad lab, as they call it, at the corner of the library, and we went to a more open area where they had pushed the tables out of the way, and one girl was picked, and she described her bedroom by putting people in places where the objects would be.
And then transforming it in your mind into the setting of your story and how it would look and feel. And you want to have as much imagery and descriptions as possible, as if you were describing something that the reader has never actually experienced before, such as holding a rope. You got to describe how that rope feels and how it looks, etc. It
was really helpful to get more of an image out of something that you could just brush aside as a bedroom. You don't think of it as a spaceship. It was just a really creative activity that opened up our eyes to more possibilities as to what our sceneries could be when we're writing.
I think the challenge of every writer is self-doubt. So even though you see the story clearly, you're praying it conveys to the reader correctly. The rewarding part is seeing people love your stuff. And I think that was a shock, because there's clothing now based on it, and teenagers have written fan fiction based on my stuff. And I didn't understand that even though it was just a fictional story, to the reader it was more than that. So that was both humbling and terrifying, because as I was writing the series I was like, oh my gosh, this next book I better do it better than the previous one. So every book needed to be better than the last, and the challenge becomes, how do you outwrite some of your stuff? I
write a lot. I write in poetry or in short stories. I kind of go all around, And so, yeah, there was really good information and good inspirations that I learned from the author today that I can use for when I'm writing my own stories.
As a writer, I would say the book that was the most challenging to write and that taught me the perseverance of the story was the Red Book, True North. It's the largest of them. The last 2 books, Last Light and Daybreaker, were actually written as one massive novel, and it was so big we couldn't bind it, so it was broken into 2 books. But the True North book was definitely an eye-opener for me as a novelist, and what it took to pull it off.
For anyone joining the Creative Writing Club, I would tell them it's one of the best things you can do when you're in high school. You meet so many nice people, and you just connect to them almost immediately. And it's very interesting to meet someone and have a similar writing style, because you'll meet a lot of people where maybe their writing style isn't for you, or you've never really heard of it before. And it's such a journey to go to the Creative Writing Club every week or every other week.
The best advice I can give for people that are joining Creative Writing Club is don't get so caught up in what you would want your ideal story to be. It's just to write whatever you can, write it full through once, and then do a full through edit, just bit by bit, and don't try to take it all at once. Do it in bits and pieces until you think it finally sets right.
It's so inspiring. Like if you join the club and you're more of an enthusiast than a doer yourself, you might be inspired to actually write. For example, when I joined Creative Writing Club, I hadn't really pursued it that much. I had written one poem for a school project, and I decided it's pretty interesting, so maybe I'll join the Creative Writing Club and see where it goes. And ever since then, I've written at least like 6 poems, and I'm working on 2 stories.
You know, maybe no one will ever pick it up and read it beyond yourself, but you could prove that you were able to do it and that you were able to convey this. And writing stories isn't just limited to, you know, the literary form. If you are a musician, leave a piece of yourself behind. If you're an artist, leave a piece of yourself behind. A lot of authors talk about that, the fact that somewhere in the universe their book stands and they've left themselves for readers for centuries to come. And I thought that was always a cool thing. But you got to be fearless enough to do it in the first place.